talking about discrete versus continuous here again. Classify each of the following as discrete or continuous. A variable is discrete if there are only certain values it can have. For instance, the classic example, how many children do you have? The acceptable answers are 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on up. If you say that you have 3.417 children, there will be confusion at the very least. It's the kind of measurement that doesn't make sense except for whole numbers. On the other hand, if you're talking about the time it takes to do something, and you say it took 3.417 seconds, sure, you can have a fraction of a second. It happens all the time. And you can have any number of fractions of a second. There's really no number of seconds that wouldn't be permissible as a measurement. So let's take a look at their examples and see if they can stump us. The time taken to complete a 100-meter sprint. Are there only certain values that could take? The world record for a while was 9.79 seconds. And then it went down to 9.72, and then it was, I think we're at 9.69 for a while. All of these are measured to the nearest hundredth of a second, but that just happens to be the precision that most of our watches go to. It is totally possible that you could have 9.68714 seconds. No reason you couldn't do that. This is a continuous variable. The time it takes to do something is almost always continuous, because it isn't restricted to certain numbers. Number of students who pass Math 10. Now we're counting people, and that means fractions are suddenly out the window. You can have no students pass Math 10, you could have just 1, you could have 2. You should not ever have 0.75 students passing a course. Numbers of people or numbers of a lot of things can only be whole numbers, so this one is what we would call discrete. Only certain values are allowed. Heights of students. If you're counting in metric, you might say that student's 183.04 centimeters tall. You might say this one's 162.71 centimeters tall. Fractions are fine. All the numbers in between are fine. There really aren't any required measurements here. So this one, again, ought to be continuous. How about shoe size? You can have fractions here because there is such a thing as a size 12.5 and 10.5 and 11.5. But fractions isn't really the issue. The question is, are all the in-between values allowed? Shoe sizes go kind of like this: 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5. That's still a discrete list, because if you walk into a store and ask for a 6 1/3 shoe, not happening. 7 1/8 isn't happening either. The increments are 1/2, and in between that there is nothing. So, in general, I would say that is a discrete measurement. There are only certain values which are allowed.